Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, hotel owner sues Seattle and King County after they used it for the homeless, and the thing was infested with meth and fentanyl. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Maybe I'm being too cynical. You guys are welcome to tell me if I am. But everybody's all excited locally that federal officials in Seattle announced today the indictments of multiple suspected drug traffickers in Western Washington. Now, am I happy that drugs are going off the streets? Yes. Am I happy that the DEA and other federal agencies made this bust? Absolutely. Where my problem is that why weren't local agencies involved in this? And why weren't they involved sooner? If you walk down the streets anywhere here in Seattle, anywhere, you are going to see the effects of the drug crisis on our streets, in our neighborhoods, in our parks. And every single time, what do we always hear in these stories? Oh, it was enough to kill the population of Seattle 5 times over, 6 times over. You do realize that every single time they do one of these busts, how many more are out there? How many more drugs are flooding into our state with enough to kill every single person in Seattle or King County or Washington State X amount of times over? It's very disheartening. It's very frustrating. Now, I don't want to yuck their yum. I don't want to say, oh, this is terrible that there's this big drug bust. It's wonderful. It's great. It's fantastic. You know who you didn't hear anything from today? Bruce Harrell. You know, it used to be when you're in a tough, competitive race, you want to stand up there. It's like that scene in Super Troopers when they get all that marijuana off Mr. Galifianakis' truck and they have this big photo shoot and the mayor says, hey, can I get in on that? Because he wants the picture for it. Where's Bruce Harrell? He doesn't want to be perceived as pro-law and order, or the left is going to get mad at him. Where's Bob Ferguson? Where's Bob Ferguson? Well, that's the story of his entire career. Where is Bob? Where's Bob? Can't find him anywhere. So, Bob doesn't want to be seen as pro anything having to do with the feds, or it looks like he's agreeing with Trump. Where's any of our politicians? I'm looking at this picture right here. I don't know who any of these people are. They're all a bunch of U.S. attorneys or DEA people, and that's fine and that's wonderful. But our politicians don't care. Our politicians don't want to be involved in fixing anything law and order related. They want the chaos. They want the mayhem. They want people dying of drugs. You know why? For the saddest reason ever. Today, I was driving on 4th Avenue South. I'm driving to the studio, and a bunch of cop cars go flying past me. Big police response. What was it? Somebody at the Jewish Federation of Greater Seattle had reported seeing a gun outside their building. Now, of course, in Seattle, we had a shooting at the Federation, what was it, like 15 years ago now? So, of course, police, when they hear something like that, they respond immediately. If only they would respond that way for every crime around here. But when I'm driving down, I realize that this incident is happening just a few blocks in front of me where all the cop cars are pulling over. And when I see the report of what's going on the police scanner, I realize the building the Federation is in, there's also the feds in that building. And across the street is one of our taxpayer-funded drug dispensaries. By that, I mean injection sites or heroin injection. One of the King County health facilities is across the street. So for me, it immediately went from, I don't think they were targeting the Federation, to, were they targeting the feds? Or is it just some lunatic on drugs with a gun downtown? This is the problem, is what we're dealing with right now. Where's the left when it comes to guns and firearms? Oh, so strict on us law-abiding citizens. But let whatever drug addicts you want have a gun, have a gun. Look what's happening in the homeless encampments around here. It is a taxpayer funded drug crisis, not a homeless crisis. So as great as it is that the feds over the last 3 weeks have been working to dismantle the Sinaloa cartel connected to drug trafficking that was allegedly distributing fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin throughout Western Washington, I noticed that I haven't seen a single statement from Bob Ferguson, not a single statement from Bruce Harrell, not a single statement from any Democrat politician. Where's Nick Brown? Where's the AG? He should be out there celebrating this. Here's what they found. 84 pounds of meth, 17,000 fentanyl pills, 21 firearms with 11 coming from search warrants issued earlier this month, hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. They also had so much other stuff at this thing. That's just the stuff they mentioned. And it's great that you're taking down this massive cartel like the Sinaloa cartel. But our elected officials don't want you to do that. Because if you actually solve the drug crisis, they can't tax us anymore for it, to fund it. That is their solution. The more you fund this stuff, the more they can tax you, and the more they can raise the taxes and not even use it for that. Remember a few years ago, you had all these attorneys out here from the AG's office to district attorneys suing Johnson & Johnson and other big pharma, and they said they were going to use the money for drug treatment. Have you seen any results of that? I got into an argument. It was a friendly argument this weekend with somebody at synagogue who was telling me, Ari, things are so much better in downtown Seattle. I said, what downtown are you going to every day? I drive to downtown Seattle every single day, and I have no idea what you're talking about. No clue whatsoever. And this person says, well, it's better near Harborview Hospital. I said, I will take your word for that because I don't go to Harborview Hospital, thank God. But I will tell you that likely from cleaning up Harborview Hospital, it pushed everything everywhere else. Our elected officials are on the side of criminals because they know they can scare you enough so that they can tax you to pay for your safety. Did Donald Trump need to tax anybody to send out the National Guard in Washington, D.C.? No. Turns out you just needed the will to do it. Imagine if Bob Ferguson, Nick Brown, Bruce Harrell all actually had the will to enforce the law. They don't. Also, I see that a lot of other people support this nonsense. You know the illegal alien trucker we've been talking about a lot now? The guy who killed 3 people in Florida. Sorry, I have to say allegedly killed 3 people in Florida by doing an illegal U-turn. There is a petition online urging Florida officials to show him leniency. 2.5 million people signed this thing. Now, how many of them are actually in country? We don't know. How many of them actually know this guy? We don't know. I find it unlikely they all do. But they're asking for leniency, claiming it's just a traffic accident. It's tragic, but it's just a traffic accident. This guy never should have been in this country. This guy never should have been driving, let alone driving a giant semi-truck. It's a miracle he hasn't killed anybody beforehand because he was pulled over beforehand. The next time the Democrats say, oh, we just want driver's licenses so these guys can work, remind them of this case. Do you know why they're pushing back so hard on this case? Because it destroys their entire narrative. Their entire narrative is they're just here for jobs. I'm sure this guy was just here for a job. But because you gave a driver's license, a commercial driver's license, to a guy who can't read the street signs, you have a massive problem. I was thinking, I took my niece and nephew out on the boat this weekend. And my nephew wanted to drive the boat. Anybody who has a boat, has ever rented a boat, lets the kid drive the boat, sure, that's what you do. But I was thinking, with regard to Washington State voter card, how stupid it is. Have you ever taken the test for the Washington State voter card? It's almost as dumb as the mechanical bull test that young Zach took last week here. The voter card, basically, you never have had to have set foot on a boat in your life to get a voter's card, boat driver's license here in Washington. You can literally load up the test in one browser panel, and you can load up the manual in another one, and you can take the test, and you can get your voter's card. But there is an upside to this, is that navigation for boats have symbols. I am not calling for us to redo traffic signs around here so they're all symbols. You're going to have a whole bunch of other problems. But it's one thing to say, okay, we have foreign freight coming in here because we have symbols, and we understand they know red, right, return. They know what that means in boating world. They understand navigation symbols. I get that. Road signs are not that way. What happens when there's construction? You have a big flashing sign. What if you don't know what it says? What if there's a sign over the highway/freeway which is flashing warnings at you, and you have no idea that in front of you the road is washed out? Or you have no idea there's been an avalanche? Or you have no idea there's an accident, and you're still barreling ahead at full speed because you don't know what that sucker says? This guy had no idea that said no U-turns. And instead, he just saw a place, which was a turnoff, and he goes, I can make a turn here. So you have all these people backing this, trying to get this guy free, and I don't believe it for a second. I don't. Because this has exposed how dumb the Democrats' thinking is. They're thinking, we have to stop this narrative, and we have to get a lenient sentence on this guy, or else Americans are going to know how bad our policies are. We found out last week. We told you the story about the school that was exposed by the Oregonian that has franchises all throughout California and Oregon and Washington, which is licensing these illegal alien truckers. We don't know how many of them are on the roads, and we don't know how many of them can't read English. The last time I was in Israel. So my Hebrew is, shall we just say, mediocre. But the good news is that the street signs are in English, Arabic, and Hebrew. So you can actually drive around Israel even if you don't speak Hebrew and even if you don't speak Arabic. You're going to be good to go. You know where I ran into trouble? Mike's going to laugh at me over this one. When I had to refill the rental car at the gas station. Now, you can follow the prices and you can go, I assume that this is unleaded and I assume this is premium, but what if one of these is diesel? And I put it in the wrong thing. And they don't have the green business that we have here. So yes, I do know. I know some of you were like, Hoffman, how dumb are you? It's green. I didn't see no green there. And I know there's a lot of diesel in other countries. And I didn't want to destroy this really cruddy rental car that I got, because then I'd have to pay for the really cruddy rental car. I said, I'd rather just take the fine on not filling up the gas tank than mess with these things. That's just the gas. And there's numbers there. And you can at least figure out, but I can only slightly decipher that. Now imagine you're driving 18,000 pounds down a freeway and you don't know what any of these signs say. That's the problem. And this exposes the problem with the Democrats' thinking. But the Democrats continue to be on the wrong side of this issue. Kilmar Abreu Garcia, the human trafficker, drug cartel member, Venezuelan cartel member, who also is a domestic abuser. The left is rallying behind this guy. They're having rallies to keep him out of jail. Why? Because you have such Trump derangement syndrome that you go, Trump is wrong. We have to keep guys like this in the... It's not about due process. Anybody who tells you it's about due process, this guy had 3 chances at due process. But they are doing what I said they should do at the beginning. Bring him back here. Give him due process. He turned down the plea deal. Have you looked at how they're talking about this plea deal in other media outlets that are on the left? Oh, they're pressuring him to take a plea deal. That's what a plea deal is, guys. Sure, give him his day in court. Show him the video of him being caught as a human trafficker. Pull up the stuff from his wife about being a domestic abuser. And then send him out of here. They were saying, we're going to send you somewhere nice. Now they're saying, we're going to send you to Uganda. You can hitchhike home. It's like when I used to run youth programs in the middle of nowhere. We take these kids to these campsites or whatever. And I said, guys, if I kick you off the program, I'm just going to drop you at the nearest bus stop. And it's between you and your parents to get you home. And I'm just warning you, there's no cell reception out here. So have fun with that. I was very clear about that. That's basically what the U.S. government is doing to Kilmar Abreu Garcia. But you've got all these people on the left saying, we need to keep him here. What benefit? What benefit does he bring to the United States of America? I'm always very concerned that the Republicans are going to lose the House and the Senate in 2026. But if the Democrats keep banging this drum and banging this messaging, I actually think you could see a historic gains for Republicans in 2026. So basically, you have Democrats out there saying, yeah, crime. We want more crime. Stop persecuting the criminals. Keep them out on the streets. Don't send them to jail. Leave the drug dealers here. Let the drug traffickers, let the drugs flow throughout the city. That's what they're protesting for. That's what they're advocating for. And as we'll tell you later in the show, according to all the polling, Democrats are on the very, very wrong side of this issue. Once again, it's an 80-20 issue. But they are so deranged against what Donald Trump and Republicans are doing, they can't even give him the win on that. Plus, then they have to admit they were wrong. And, you know, a little advice for my Democrat friends, just a little smidgen of advice. Voters have a very short memory. They'll know that Donald Trump secured the border, but they will forget about the human border catastrophe. They actually will. We won't. Republicans won't. But Democrat voters will. And if you want to say, yeah, and we worked with the Trump administration to secure the border, you could have actually held on to his coattails and picked up some wins here. But they are so deranged in the mind against him and against any of this and so pro-criminal and anti-you, they'll never even consider doing that. They could have taken the win in all this and been like, yep, it was our idea the whole time. It was our idea the whole time. We wanted to do this. Joe Biden wouldn't let us do this, but we wanted to do this. If they keep doubling down on this messaging, they will continue to lose. So I kind of hope they do. Plus, it gives us tons of content for the show. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, where you been, man? Haven't heard from you in a while. You on vacation?
I was on working vacation, and I came home with a cold, and then I heard the sad news the Jewish Federation was in some danger today. I got to tell you, Jewish Federation's doing a lot of good work out there. They're doing stuff like having this safe network and training people to, protect their communities from all forms of hate. And I'm sending you right now 2 emails I got just this morning that were not responded to, where the Jewish Federation asked Governor Ferguson to honor Jewish American Heritage Month, and he refused. His office didn't even respond.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Why would he do that when he's in bed with CARE? The unindicted co-conspirators in the Holy Land Foundation trial. This is the guy who bragged about establishing 2 Muslim holidays on the same weekend of Easter and Passover. So we know who he's in with. Of course they're not going to respond.
Yeah, because, I'm so happy I crossed party lines to stand with Dave Reichert because I want a good person as governor who will represent all the people. And I'm just so angry about it because, I may not be Jewish, but a Gentile myself with Jewish relatives and friends and pals, and my president being Vanessa Kritzer, a super, super awesome person who happens to be Jewish, but no offense. But, I want my leaders to represent all people, no matter how they pray, when they pray, or where they pray. And we need to come together. And sadly, we don't live in that world right now, and I wish we did. And I'm sorry if I sound Pollyannish, as somebody who's ready to go to war to protect you and protect all people. But
that's very nice of you. No, Joe, you don't have to apologize for that kind of thing. That's the way it should be. Unfortunately, we have a governor who's very, very partisan, and proved this year exactly how partisan he is. Joe, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, a hotel owner is now suing Seattle and King County because when they used it for the homeless, they left the place infested with meth and the kid died. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. In 2020, a lot of hotels couldn't stay afloat, couldn't stay in business because there's no travelers, because of all the COVID lockdowns and all these conferences and everything else getting canceled. So as a result, a lot of these hotels were in real trouble. Some of them sold to different government agencies. Some of them sold to developers. Some of them thought they got a massive windfall. What happens is King County or Seattle or somebody from the homeless industrial complex comes along and says, not only will we rent out every single room for every single night for X amount of years, but we're going to pay you a lot more than you would get from just doing this. Now, this is a huge waste of taxpayer expense. But a lot of desperate landlords did this. Some landlords who weren't desperate did this, said, why would I mess around trying to fill a hotel every single night? I could just get the money from the government. The government pays well. So sure, I'll rent out every single room, every single night for homeless people. But you and I know they're not actually homeless. They are taxpayer-funded drug addicts. This story is one you have heard before, but it's a newer version. Got a new coat of paint on it. Not the same exact story, new characters, new people, same story. According to Como News, Neheya Naria says she and her family were trying to help the city during a time of crisis, but now feel like they've been left with a crisis of their own. She says there are people who do things and there are people who say they could have done things, and this is one of those moments, said the owner of the Civic Hotel in South Lake Union. We're stepping up to help the community. That's why Naria and her late father agreed to lease the hotel to the city in King County in 2020 to serve as a homeless shelter. But she says after the county ended the lease in December of 2024, they failed to abide by the contract and clean the place up. Naria says the entire hotel, which was fully renovated in 2018 and sits across the street from Apple's Seattle headquarters, is now contaminated with methamphetamine and fentanyl residue from the people who once lived there, and that the building is uninhabitable. That's why she's now suing Seattle and King County to fix the problem. In the lawsuit, she specifically cites a 2024 case involving a baby that was found dead inside the hotel with fentanyl and meth in their system. The mother, who was a tenant, had been charged with murder because she says the city failed to properly manage people and make sure they were not doing drugs inside. Now both the city and the county are finger pointing. In a filing, the Seattle City Attorney's Office said that the city admits that King County failed to clean and repair the damage to the premises, and the city admits it did not obtain a bid from a bio-cleaning company. But the filing also suggests that the city denies that the Seattle license required to the city to carefully supervise tenants, and that the city is without sufficient knowledge to admit or deny the remaining statements. So let's backtrack a second and translate that into English. Basically, one is saying, you should have cleaned it. And the other one says, you didn't have a contract to clean it. And the other one says, well, you never got a bid to clean it. Does any of this change the fact that you let drugs inside the building in the first place? This is the whole problem with the housing first model, where you assume just because you put somebody in a building that they will be better off. You let an entire building get infested with drugs. And it's not like they didn't have warnings of this. Dow Constantine, when he was the King County executive and running the King County Regional Homeless Authority, I know he wasn't technically CEO, but let's be real, who was paying for the thing? So he bought a hotel. He bought a hotel in the path of the light rail that was infested with meth. So you were only going to get a couple of years out of this thing. Well, actually, the way the light rail goes, you probably get a lot more than that. But at the same time, the thing was infested with meth and uninhabitable, so it sat there and sat there and sat there until you did remediation. This is what happens every time Seattle or King County or anybody from Homeless Inc. takes over a property. It's filled with meth. Do you remember the laughable study done by University of Washington saying, oh no, the light rail is healthy. The light rail's fine. Don't worry about all those drug addicts on the thing. And then, Mike, do you remember this? Do you remember we got a press release about them changing the material of the seats? And I said, the better to clean you with, my dear. It probably doesn't hold all those meth chemicals as much as other things do. Yeah, that's probably why they did it, despite them saying whatever nonsense they said at the time. So, in a statement, you have this organization known as the Purpose Dignity Action, which helped to manage the site. They said the Civic Hotel was a wonderful venue to do low-barrier shelter work the last few years. Stop. I don't care what else you say. Low barrier means low barrier to entry. That means they don't check you for drugs. That means they don't check you for alcohol. That means they don't check you for weapons. That means they don't check you for animals. That means they don't check you for felony warrants. You are literally admitting that that's the model you followed and you didn't manage drugs. You just admitted it right there. The term low barrier, that's what that means. We regretted having to leave last December because the ongoing lease costs were just too high. As recently this spring, the owners, who have been great to work with, were asking if we could return. Before co-lead start, because they probably didn't know what you did to the building. They were probably assuming everything was fine. Before co-lead started to work at the Civic leased a space for a different sheltering program not run by us. You mean the fact that they probably were not allowing this? You know, Salvation Army doesn't allow this kind of stuff. There's lots of other organizations out there that don't allow this kind of stuff on their properties, but Homeless Inc. does. Because Homeless Inc. wants to get as much taxpayer money as possible and spend as little of it as possible on actually solving the problem. It's more expensive to send somebody to treatment than to give them a crack pipe. Here, have a crack pipe. Here, have your needles. They don't actually want to solve it. Personally, I think the city and King County are going to lose and lose big here, especially if the lease had certain conditions in it, like you need to clean up the meth. You need to clean up whatever you did. Look, I know most contracts I do as a property manager say you're responsible for any damage you caused. That's a pretty standard thing in real estate. I think the city and King County are going to be on the hook for a lot of money. Why? Because of their failed policies, where they assume if we just put the taxpayer-funded drug addicts out of sight and out of mind, we're going to solve the problem, be able to sit back and collect the check. Unfortunately, somebody else assumed the same thing, and these people said, you owe us money because you destroyed our building. What do you think the meth content of the light rail is? Or Metro? Have we ever done a study on the buses? I think they just did the light rail. I don't think they did the buses. And I've seen the taxpayer-funded drug addicts waiting at the bus stops on Rainier Avenue. I know what that looks like, and in downtown Seattle on 3rd Avenue. Man, can you imagine if somebody decided to sue that for fentanyl poisoning or methamphetamine poisoning? When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. The Democrats are having a big conference today, and they are doubling down on dumb. We'll have that insane audio for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Earlier today, President Donald Trump proposed making flag burning illegal, specifically the American flag. Now, I think this is a pretty cut and dried issue. I think anybody who loves the United States of America doesn't want to see flag burning. However, we do have freedom of speech. I put up a poll earlier today that only had two options. And unfortunately, that shoves everybody into a binary. It shoves everybody into yes or no with no nuance whatsoever. Because I think that the KVI audience would either say, yes, we should ban the burning of the United States flag, or I want to ban flag burning, but I can't because of the First Amendment. Look, let's take me. I've literally been a victim of flag burning. And you go, what the hell are you talking about, Hoffman? How can you be a victim? You're not a flag. Last year, during the Gaza encampment at the University of Washington, when I was walking around the campus after the Christian and Israel rally that was on campus, one of the Antifa lunatics saw I was wearing an American flag, grabbed it away from me, ran like a little girl back to Antifa-stan or whatever it was in the middle of the quad there, and they posted a video later that night of them burning my flag, and I forget if it was Jonathan Cho or somebody else the next day actually found the remnants of my burned flag in the quad. So believe me, that really bothers me. It bothers me when I see an American flag on the ground. It bothers me tremendously. But we also have the First Amendment. I want to know what you think. Do you think there should be some kind of law banning flag burning? Do you think there should be, but we can't really do it because of the Constitution? Are you in favor of what President Trump is doing? Let me know at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Because some people are claiming it's a hate crime. And you know what? You're not entirely wrong, but here's the problem with hate crimes. Why don't we just enforce the law that we have? How many times have I said this before? I'm tired of saying it's a hate crime because what always happens anytime there's a hate crime? They get so focused on whether it was really anti-Semitic or whether it was really Islamophobic or whether it was anything else, they don't end up prosecuting the crime. They just say, well, I guess we can't prove anti-Semitism, so we're just going to forget that it was assault or forget that it was vandalism. A crime is a crime. You don't need the hate crime enhancements with it. So do you think that burning the U.S. flag, the United States of America flag, do you think that should be some kind of crime? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I have another solution to all this flag burning. If you shut down the riots, then maybe there won't be as much flag burning. I know, crazy idea, right? Maybe if you stop people from rioting, follow the law, they won't burn that many flags. Just a thought. I know, crazy idea, Hoffman. Where do you get this stuff? And just say, stop the rioting. And you may stop that. Or kick out the illegal aliens or the people who came here on a student visa that really hate the United States of America, and flag burning will go down. Where do I get these ideas from? Meanwhile, Donald Trump Jr. says things are going so well in Washington, D.C., that maybe we want to take this show on the road. And he had some pretty strong language on Newsmax the other day.
That's why the people elected him, Carl. They elected him because they understand that he's not a bureaucrat. He's not a politician. He's actually a doer. So he's going to get out there with the men and women who do these things, who keep our city safe. And despite all the uproar you saw from the Democrats in the media, it's interesting when you do all the candid interviews of people on the streets of D.C., 93% of whom are hardened leftists. They're like, no, this is great. I feel safe. This is a wonderful thing. Let's do this. Maybe we should roll out the tour to Portland, Seattle, the other, what we'd call, crap hole cities of the country, not because they're crap holes, but because Democrats made them so. Yeah. Maybe we're going to expand this because it's sort of interesting when a very left-leaning base is actually encouraging these kind of policies because they know the truth. They know they're getting carjacked. They know the murder rate was going through the roof. Yeah. Just because they changed the way they measure statistics doesn't mean the crime didn't actually take place.
I love that you hear his hesitation where you can hear him, what he was about to say, and then realized, wait, this isn't a podcast. I got to worry about the FCC. So I got to say crap hole instead of the word I can't say on air. And then I like how he qualified his remarks. Not because the people there are terrible. That's left over from the Puerto Rico thing, right? What he's saying is, he's saying these cities have been turned into garbage dumps by the bad Democrat policies that are running them into the ground. I know you get the same comments I do. Wow, Seattle used to be so beautiful. What's with all the graffiti? What's with all the drug addicts? What's happening around here? Lots of people are feeling the exact same way. So tell me what you think. Do you want to see the National Guard here? Do you want them here or not? Or a more nuanced answer. Do you want the National Guard here, but you're not sure it's actually legal for the National Guard to be here? Because I remember Jay Inslee during the autonomous zone sending in the National Guard unarmed to deal with the riots. And I remember him sending in the National Guard to feed the homeless while the autonomous zone was going on, but not actually dealing with a terrorist takeover of 6 blocks of Seattle. So what do you think? Think we should send in the National Guard or not? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Sally in Gig Harbor. Sally, what's going on?
Hi, Ari. I'm not calling about the National Guard, but I wanted to say if it's warranted, send them in and let them be armed and only fight back when they have to. It's gotten out of hand, and it always will unless we put a stop to it. But that's not why I called. I called on the First Amendment, and I'm thinking, go back in time when they were doing the First Amendment. What do you think when they gave us that? What do you think they were referring to?
You're asking me, or you're asking rhetorically?
No, I'm asking you. What kind of things could they have been referring to when they drew that up?
Well, they say very, very clearly what they were referring to, speech and religion.
Yes, but did they discuss amongst themselves, I wonder, what kind of speech? Do you think they ever in their wildest dreams would have imagined that burning the flag would have been just A-okay? I don't even think that even entered their minds when they drew it up.
I'll tell you something. I'm not sure I agree with you, Sally, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
They used to burn King George in effigy all the time. You're thinking
to them back then.
Right, you're thinking, would they ever burn the flag of this great country we're giving everybody? Right. The founders were brilliant, but they weren't clairvoyant. Otherwise, they would have done term limits, right?
Either that or they never would have dreamed it would have gone this far. And I just don't believe that burning of the United States flag would have been on their agenda. I just don't.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, Sally.
I don't think they would have okayed it.
I'm with you.
You have my answer. No, it is wrong. Get out of the country if you don't like the flag. Just get out.
I like that, Sally. That's very good.
We lose nothing at that point.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm saying if somebody wants to burn the flag and they're not a citizen for sure, kick them out of the country. We have so many people here who are here for all the wrong reasons. Sally, great call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Robert at Kitsap. Robert, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. I told your screener that, we need another law, like we need holes in our heads, extras anyway. My biggest thing is the civil disobedience side of this. I would say charge them with arson. You just lit a fire. You're a firebug, and get them off the street that way. I fought in foreign wars for that flag, and I hold it very dear. I've been in many flag retirement ceremonies with young 8-year-olds. So I have my own, deep convictions. I just don't want to give them any more ammunition to then do it in front of us. And so my biggest thing is just let's get rid of all this. You're not allowed to be that disruptive in public anymore, and get them off the streets.
Yeah, I think the easier way to do it is you're not allowed to light public fires without a permit. And if you're lighting a public fire without a permit, it doesn't matter what you're burning. Robert, great point. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You want to weigh in on this flag burning stuff? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your texts, and there's a lot of them. And also, did Cracker Barrel just admit that they screwed up? Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Last week, we weren't really going to discuss the Cracker Barrel thing, but then we brought it up kind of in passing on Friday, and our phone lines blew up. The reason we weren't going to bring it up is because there's not one around here. There were some around here. They're not around here anymore, and we figured we do a live and local show. It may not have been that relevant, but the phone lines exploded. People from across the country were calling, which was kind of funny, but also people locally who remember it, who were actually saying, oh, it closed because of government regulation, but they took it very, very personally. Now, Cracker Barrel, they launched this thing on Wednesday, maybe, this new logo redesign. It was sometime last week in the middle of the week. They launched this. They're already backtracking. They don't want the Bud Light treatment. They don't want that happening. They want to say, okay, we hear you. We hear you. You know, maybe it should have been like, here should have been your marketing thing for Cracker Barrel. The nostalgia that you love, the taste that you love. Let's open up to a new generation or something like that. So that's just off the top of my head. Having never eaten there, having never been there, having never been to their ye old curiosity store. None of that. Maybe some kind of marketing that direction or give it over to a new generation, something. Well, now they realize their mistake. Cracker Barrel has issued a statement in a message posted to social media. Our promise to you in the last few days have shown us anything. It's how deeply people care about Cracker Barrel. We are truly grateful for your heartfelt voices. You've also shown us it could have been done a better job of sharing who we are and who we will always be. It went on to say, yeah, we're backtracking on everything. That's pretty much what it was, which good for them, by the way. Because how long did it take Bud Light to realize they screwed up?
Too long.
What did we get, Mike? 6 months out of the Bud Light bigotry, as we call it, that we were able to do on the show here? That was the never-ending story. That was the Roke Report for months. Literally for months. What's the market cap? What's the market share? What's happening at the sports stadiums? What are they doing to fix this? What's happening with their competitors? My God, it was never-ending content. We got out of that. Cracker Barrel didn't want that. Cracker Barrel said, let's fix this. Let's fix this now. Now, one thing for everybody else. Realize this is a business that is trying to come into the 21st century and that things aren't easy for restaurants. So you know what? Be a little tolerant if their next marketing campaign is just Cracker Barrel, we're new, we're flashy, we're awesome, as opposed to the woke nonsense or redoing whatever it is. But the question is, what's different between that and what they just did? I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, well, they got rid of all the tchotchkes in the stores and they got rid of the old man. You still have to solve the marketing problem, and now you're deeper in the hole. I'm not defending them. I'm just telling you what they're up against. So what's your idea to fix the Cracker Barrel thing? What would have been your marketing campaign? I just gave you something basically what mine would have been. What's yours? You want to say it's that nostalgia? Fine, but give me what your idea for it would be. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Jonesy in Port Orchard. Jonesy, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you fine. What's up, man?
Right on. Well, I just want to say a couple of things, and I have a really, really good ability to take a short story and make it a whole day affair. Here's the deal. My dad was on the island of Oahu when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. He was stationed at Schofield Barracks, which is an army base. He saw friends vaporized. These friends of his were vaporized to keep the flag flying. They were the flag of the United States. It ain't like no other flag in this world, brother.
Yeah.
The Israeli flag is great, but even the Israeli flag is not United States of America flag.
When you see the United States of America, what a lot of people go is that is a symbol of freedom. That is a symbol for what we are trying to achieve.
Let me finish my rant.
You got about 30 seconds there. You got about 30 seconds, Jonesy.
Oh, man.
Go for it.
Okay. The First Amendment. What does the First Amendment say? Those people, you said you don't think they were clairvoyant. Brother, they might have been. You know the story about George Washington, the bulletproof president?
Mm-hmm.
Read the book. Watch the movie. Learn about that. Those guys might have been clairvoyant. Have you ever read their writings? Do it. Those guys were way beyond where we are today.
Oh, I always say
it guarantees us the freedom of speech. It guarantees us the freedom to talk.
I'm agreeing with you, Jonesy.
Speech and actions. They knew the difference between speech and actions. We do not have the freedom of acts, ACTS. We don't have the freedom to act any way we want, to do anything we want.
Jonesy, I'm agreeing with you, buddy. I'm agreeing with you, but you know what the problem with freedom of speech is? It ends with the commercial break coming up right now, which I'm worried I'm going to be running into.
Okay, well, get out. You need to look up who the liberal judges were that construed it into meaning freedom of expression. You tell me where it says we've got the freedom of expression. We don't.
Okay.
So my dad was in. He went to Korea 3 times. He didn't get out until 62. I was 1 year old. Tell you how old I am.
I appreciate where you're coming from.
We can peaceably assemble, and we can address our government about our grievances.
I hear you, Jonesy. Believe me, I hear where you're coming from, and I'm sure a lot of our audience agrees with you, man. That's why we're having the discussion. That's why my phone line's lit up so much. Thank you so much for sharing the story of your father with us. Thank you for getting so personal with us and sharing your thoughts as well. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to weigh in, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, more of your calls, more of your texts, plus Tim Hazelow, the GOP election observer, learned his fate today for not wearing a mask and being prosecuted for being a Republican. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including 2 movie tickets to an advanced screening of The Long Walk as Mike and I review the latest movies. But before we get to any of that, my friends, looks like a lot of you want to weigh in on the flag burning. A lot of you want to weigh in on Cracker Barrel. So we go right to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Kevin in Maple Valley. Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. Pleasure. Yeah, I'm from Virginia, and I basically grew up on Cracker Barrel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Cracker Barrel, yeah, and, like, it's nothing too special, but the food is good, you know, like, and while you wait, you can play checkers and stuff, wander the little gift shop store, and, like, just all these nice, like, signs and antique stuff hanging on the walls. But it's a good environment usually, so, yeah, the change-up was a bit unnecessary, in my opinion, and, like most companies and brands, they should think about just downsizing in general, because, like, did the Starbucks formula, put one on every corner, you wear yourself thin.
Well, I think what they were trying to do was they were trying to expand their brand and think they would get a new audience off something that doesn't look as antiquated, but they underestimated how much people went for the environment. And they underestimated how much people went for the nostalgia, and I think that's exactly what did it. Kevin, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Going over the text line, a lot of people weighed in on the flag burning. I got pages and pages of text here. Holy cow. This one here from the 206, burning a flag. First Amendment, that's freedom of speech, not freedom of burning or freedom of burning stuff. Right? So, look, I said the easiest way to solve this is don't allow burning objects in the middle of the street. What excuse would you have? What legal reason would you have for lighting a fire in the middle of the street? What you do on your own property is on your own property, right? But what excuse would you have for doing that? 4th of July, lighting fireworks. Well, guess what, guys? You don't get to light fireworks in the middle of the street either. I know we all do it. I'm sorry. I'm not admitting on air that I violate burn bans by lighting fireworks or anything. But what excuse would you have for lighting fires in the middle of the street without a permit anyway? That might be the easiest way to deal with this and avoid the First Amendment implications. The problem is that sounds like a local jurisdiction issue. And how many local jurisdictions here let Hamasniks or Antifa or BLM do whatever the hell they want, like here in Seattle? That's the issue here. So this one here, this guy, John in Auburn. Ari, I'm proud to say Bud Light free since Anheuser-Busch gave their money to Captain Hair Gel's re-election campaign. Anheuser-Busch gave money to Gavin Newsom? Did they? I don't know. We're going to be talking about Gavin Newsom later in the show. This one here from the 253. If someone burns a flag they own, that is their business. However, if they want to burn the flag I own, it should be my right to defend my property. As a publicly owned flag, that still isn't theirs any more than it is mine, so leave it alone. I think the thing here is whether or not you're allowed to burn an American flag in any way, shape, or form. I think that's what a lot of people want to weigh in on here. So seems like a lot of people say, yeah, this is not something we want. A lot of people are bringing up the First Amendment implications. Ari, it is very wrong to burn the flag. This one from the 360, since many men and women gave their lives for that flag. Yeah, totally agree with you. I understand it. I totally understand it. Switching gears over here to something else that's happening around here, speaking of freedom of speech. Do you remember Tim Hazelow? Tim Hazelow was the election observer out in Island County. And Tim Hazelow showed up the day of the election to observe the election, and they asked him to put on a mask, and he refused to do so. There is no law regarding wearing a mask. There is no regulation regarding elections regarding wearing a mask, and he refused to do so. When they called the police on him, who, by the way, were not wearing masks, and their body camera footage showed other people not wearing masks, and when Como News showed up to do a story on this the following day, there were plenty of people not wearing masks. When he was asked to leave, he did so peacefully. That's freedom of expression. That's freedom of speech. And yet, You have this crazy prosecutor out in Island County. You have this crazy prosecutor out there who went after him with federal charges, with felony charges, and wanted to hit him with federal charges as well. This is Greg Banks. This is the guy who wanted to throw him in jail, throw Tim Hazelow in jail for the rest of his natural life. Well, they found him guilty, which I don't know how they picked this jury, but the jury found Tim guilty. This was a while ago. Now we've got his sentence today. According to our friend Carrie French, who calls the show from time to time, she said Tim has to pay $200 in court costs, $500 in a victim compensation account, give a DNA sample. You don't make illegal aliens do that. Like he's some kind of sexual predator, and he has to do 40 hours of nonprofit work for non-political organizations, plus no jail time. But he's still a felon. So that means he loses his voting rights, and he loses his right to have a firearm, and his job required security clearance, so he lost his job over this. Thanks, Greg Banks. Really, do you feel like you made the world a better place over this? You ruined this guy's life. Okay, no jail time, fine, but you ruined and destroyed his life. Now, the prosecutor was going for jail time over this, so that Tim could, quote, reflect upon his misguided behavior. Okay, this guy, Greg Banks, needs to be voted out of office. Needs to be voted. If he's appointed, you need to vote out whoever's the person who appoints him. But this guy needs to be voted out of office, and I wonder if he actually crossed the line on this one, where a lot of people are going to say, no, got to get rid of this guy. Because this is insane. You ruined a man's life because you didn't agree with the fact that he was a former GOP party leader. You ruined his life because you disagreed with his politics. Let's remember Greg Banks, this guy, had tons of anti-Trump, anti-Republican, wishing death on all of them, social media posts, which the judge would not let into the case to show that this guy was being prosecuted because the prosecutor disagreed with his politics. That wasn't allowed in. This was some malicious prosecution. This is the definition. You have malicious prosecution. Tim Hazelow is going to be part of a textbook now from going forward. That's what this is, malicious prosecution. And now you've made the guy lose his job. He can't vote anymore. And you took away his firearm rights because he wouldn't wear a mask. We're 5 years after COVID. We know they didn't work during COVID. This is you trying to bully somebody you had power over. And you weaponize the government to do it. Here's something Democrats need to think about. Every single time they go, oh, Republicans weaponizing this. When you do things like this, it makes us want to seize the power and do the same thing to you. Tell you what, Greg, do you think that it would be fun if somebody prosecuted you for your social media posts that were saying that people should die if they're Republicans? Sounds like a death threat to me. Boom, I just made a case out of that. What would some crazy Republican prosecutor do with that if they wanted to? Is that how Democrats are going to learn their lesson? We see this stuff all the time. Oh, Republicans are just trying to get even. And you guys open this can of worms. Malicious prosecution. Remember what they did to Donald Trump? Remember what they did to anybody associated with Donald Trump? I want you to think about this right now. If Donald Trump had not won re-election, would he be in jail right now? Would he be paying fines up the wazoo right now? Is that where our country has gotten to? Because that's how bitter Democrats are? Democrats have literally become the very thing that our founding fathers were fighting against. They've become tyrants. It's our way or the highway. You disagree with me, I'm going to use everything at my disposal to come after you. I'll tell you something I've discussed with some of my colleagues. I've discussed the fact that Bob Ferguson may come after all of us. Now, I'm not sure he'll do it in his first term because I think he wants to get reelected to a second term. But if Bob Ferguson gets reelected to a second term, he's going to think he's cruising to a third, a fourth, a fifth, or whatever else it is. And guaranteed, you're going to see anybody who does what I do on his hit list. And he will find new and inventive ways of doing it. Well, you think Bob Ferguson doesn't have a list? Of course he has a list. He's checking it twice. He's going to say who's been a naughty Republican and who's been a nice Democrat. That's what he's going to do. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take call from Richard in Shoreline. Richard, what's going on?
Hey, I wanted to comment on burning American flags.
Mm-hmm.
I will start by saying I'm a Air Force veteran, Vietnam. I'm the past commander of the American Legion in Shoreline, and I live not far from Nevergreen Washelli Cemetery. And I started walking my dog there about 10, 15 years ago. And I found when they'd mow the lawn, they would pull the flags that were posted. They'd put them on the lawnmower behind the seat. And then what they would do when they got to a garbage can, they'd throw them in the garbage.
You're talking about the ones put out for Memorial Day, right? Those?
Memorial Day or any day. Okay?
Uh-huh.
I keep flags on my parents' graves 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so I went to the office and I said, you can't put these in the garbage. They said, well, it's a decoration. I said, no, it's not. They said, it's an ornament. I said, no, it's not. I said, it's our national symbol and you can't do that. So what I did is I requisitioned 3 copies of the U.S. flag code. I gave 1 to the office and 2 to the groundskeepers. Now I get all of their flags. They save their flags for me. And what I do is I collect these. I take them out to the American Legion at Shoreline,
mm-hmm.
and we have a Boy Scout and veteran retirement ceremony where we actually burn the flags. And I'll tell you what, I collect flags all the time for this purpose.
I'll tell you what, Richard, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you my email address. I think I might have something else you can do with those flags. Okay, so every single year we put in flags in the grounds at the graves of Jewish soldiers at the Jewish cemeteries. We're always looking for donors for more flags because flags break, flags fall apart, and every year we're looking for more. Plus, there's always more people who are dying, and we always need more flags. If you're collecting these flags anyway and they don't want them, I'd be happy to take them off your hands, and then you don't have to dispose of as many of them.
No. You don't dispose of a flag. You retire it.
Retire. Okay. Sorry. I apologize for my language there, Richard. I apologize. But that was no offense intended. No offense intended. But I'm saying is that I know that myself and many other organizations who do the same thing would be more than happy to take these things off your hands.
Well, I take them off the hands of other people. In fact, we have an organization we created, one in Linwood, one in Shoreline, and one in Woodinville. It's called the Heroes Cafe. We get together once a month and have gathering of veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting a new program where I'm taking a box in for every one of these events, and for people who want to retire a flag, that is retire, not dispose.
Yes.
Retire a flag. I will take those flags and we will take them to the Boy Scouts in Woodinville for their flag retirement ceremony.
You're going to like the story, Richard. There's a guy in my synagogue who I disagree with everything politically, but we're still friends. Okay? I'm sure you have friends like that, right? And he actually said to me, hey, the synagogue flag is getting a little weathered. And I said, yeah, I probably have to get a new one. He says, I'll take care of retiring the flag. And I kind of gave him the eyebrow that you see when Mike knows the eyebrow, right? I gave him the wait a minute. He goes, Ari, I was a Boy Scout. We take these things very, very seriously. And he did exactly what you're talking about. I was assuming the absolute worst because this is somebody who I disagree with politically. Like, wait a minute, you guys aren't patriotic. There are plenty of patriotic Democrats out there who don't agree with the lefty psychoness. Richard, my email address, ari@kvi.com, ari@kvi.com. I'll be more than happy to take a lot of those flags off your hands. I really will.
Well, but then the next thing you have to think about is I won't release them to you because you want to dispose of them, and I want to retire them.
I'm not gonna dispose of them, I promise. So actually, I'll tell you what we do with our flags, and the Jewish cemetery is actually across from Evergreen Washelli. You might notice it up there when you're walking around, depending on.
It's not Evergreen Washelli. It's Nevergreen Washelli. Go look at the grass over there.
Well, okay, we don't run that one, okay. But the one across, what we do is actually we collect the flags and we save them specifically for this purpose year after year after year. And we had a big problem this year because actually somebody misplaced the flags that we have been using for years. So actually, this might be a very fortuitous phone call, Richard, where we might be able to help each other out.
Hey, let's see what we can do.
Fantastic. So
All
it's
right.
ARI@KVI.com, ARI@KVI.com. Let's see what we can do, all right?
I've heard that email address multiple times because I listen to you all the time, sir, and I really appreciate how you've grown in that position you're in. I really do.
That's very
You do
kind
an
of you.
awesome job, Ari.
That's very kind of you, Richard. And I appreciate your service to this country and you caring about something that so many people take for granted, but also you caring about something. And whenever you humanize these stories, whenever you say, this is what I do to protect the flag, also went to war, also I do this when I'm not at war. This is the kind of stuff we do. This humanizes it and helps an entire generation who didn't serve in the military like your generation did understand why this is so important. And I wish there were more like you out there, Richard.
But you know, one of the reasons I'm doing this that is really important to me is they don't even say the Pledge of Allegiance in our schools anymore.
Yeah.
And how can I create more patriotism amongst young people?
Well, you know what actually you could do?
That.
You could do is you say to the school, you say to schools nearby, go to some private schools. Say to private schools. And I've had some success with this actually. And say, I will donate a flag for every single classroom for your entire school if you say Pledge of Allegiance every single day. And I actually bet you more schools will take you up on that than not. One, because they're afraid of what you might say if they say no, right? That you might call the Ari Hoffman Show. There's that. But two is that a lot of them don't even think about it. Because so many of these private schools, I know how the left loves to say, oh, private schools have all the money in the world. They're busy fundraising for their lives. They don't get as much government funding. And sometimes they just overlook. My kid's school, I said this to them. Oh, my God, we never even thought about that. You reach out to them, I bet you'll have some success with the charter and the private schools. Public schools, don't waste your time. We know what we're dealing with there. Richard, great phone call. Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate you being part of the show and appreciate your service. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including local parents are really concerned about a certain student being let back on campus. Why? Because the last time he was there, he brought a loaded gun to school. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Can you believe the summer's almost over? Labor Day is this coming weekend. Soon we're going to have to go back to our usual miseducation of America. Mike, it seems like the summer just started yesterday. How did it blaze by this quick? Where did the time go? I don't know. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. Had a good summer. Had a relatively good summer. So parents who now have their kids going back to school are really concerned at Arlington High School. So apparently a student was expelled for bringing a gun to school in 2024. I remember when we did this story, the student brought a loaded gun on campus. And at the time, I remember we had this discussion. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm remembering all of this. The discussion was, well, was he bringing it because he's an idiot and he was showing it off? Or was he bringing it because he meant some horrible intent? I remember having this discussion. And our thing at the time was, you can't take the chance. You can't take the chance. But now they're letting the kid back on campus. Look, this isn't the 1940s and 50s when they used to have riflery classes on campus. Unfortunately, we have school shootings these days. And Mike, I see you're like scratching your head. Maybe it was the day Kevin was subbing in for you or something like that. But I remember the discussion because I remember we started discussing school safety. Why did nobody know he had this thing on campus? Where were the cops on campus? Why are there no metal detectors on campus? We kind of went that route with it.
Yeah, I just didn't remember where we landed on it.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think we landed anywhere. I think this was one of those, and then the phone lines blew up and everybody told us But basically what we came down with was, it really came down to intent. Like any crime, for that matter, if we consider this a crime. Was the kid like, hey, look what I found? The way we used to find things around our parents' house and go, hey, look what I found. Look what I got at my parents' house. Let me show everybody. Get it back before they notice it's gone. Right?
Look what I found in a brown paper bag out in the woods. Got sent home for that.
So what happens here is that either way, we're in an age where kids, for some reason, are shooting up schools, whether it's because they were brainwashed by trans ideology or because they got some other mental disorder problem. And unfortunately, you can't take the chance anymore. You just can't. But now, this kid is being let back on campus even after he was charged with it. There were criminal charges involving this, which means they thought it wasn't an intent thing. It wasn't, hey, look what I found at home. It's my dad's gun. It was I plan to do bad things with this, so I brought it to campus. Now there's a petition circulating. The petition states that while everyone deserves a chance to rebuild and reform, it's crucial to prioritize the safety and protection of our young ones. The petition proposes implementing stricter admission policies at the high school, particularly for those students with violent or severe criminal records that might pose a risk to others. Okay, can we break this down for a second? If you said, let's say every kid has a right to public education, and this is where his family is, and really sad story, and we have to let him back in school. You guys couldn't do Zoom school for this kid? You guys couldn't figure out other ways of doing it? Instead, you have to let a kid who was deemed a big enough threat that they were going to do criminal charges against this kid. You're going to let him back on campus, and you're going to put him with the people that he had the issues with that he was considering doing bad things to. Are you out of your minds? Are you absolutely crazy? You could have done this. So the backlash against this has been severe, where the parents said, this is absolutely crazy. This voicemail is circulating the interwebs. I found it online. I don't know if it's legit, but I have no reason to suspect that it's not. Imagine if you got this phone call, a robocall from the school district when this was the issue at hand.
Dear Arlington families and staff, this is Gary Sable, Director of Communications with Arlington Public Schools. The district is aware of recent media reports regarding a high school student who has completed an expulsion and will be returning to school this fall. We recognize that this news may cause concern for some families, and we want to assure you that the safety and well-being of all students remains our highest priority. While federal law, FERPA, prevents the district from sharing details about individual students, we can share that in situations like these, we take thoughtful, proactive steps to support both safety and student success. These steps may include a formal threat assessment that may result in a safety plan. Safety plans may include, but are not limited to, assigning a dedicated one-to-one staff member to monitor the student during the school day, no cell phone, prohibiting the student from carrying a backpack on campus, conducting searches of the student for weapons, and no presence on school grounds or at school events outside of the school day. Our response in this matter has been guided by Washington state law. It is important to know that some actions suggested in recent media coverage are not legally permissible for school districts to take. We remain committed to acting responsibly and lawfully. We value our partnership with families and the trust you place in us. If you have questions or would like to talk about your child's safety, please do not hesitate to contact us.
Okay, let's break this down for a second, practically speaking. If the kid's not a threat, why does he need a staffer following him around? If the kid's not a threat, why do you need to take his cell phone away? If the kid's not a threat, why do you need to search his backpack and his locker and everything else? If this was a kid who just did something stupid, instead you are saying, we recognize there's a threat here, so we're going to watch this kid. All right, you're dedicating an entire staffer to this kid. You know what this tells me, Mike? Somebody called Bob Ferguson's office. Somebody called the AG's office, Nick Brown, Bob Ferguson, somebody like that, and said, hey, we want to kick this kid out. And they said, nope, everybody has to go to a public school, because if you start saying we have to kick kids out because of safety, we're going to have to kick out a lot of kids from those inner city schools who aren't safe. And everybody deserves a public education. Bob Ferguson can happily say that because his kids go to private school and they don't go to public school. It's amazing. Mike, you know I am no fan of public schools, and I say that in their modern iteration. I know a lot of people are proud of their alma maters, but what I say all the time is how much they are failing kids. I think that every kid deserves an education, but unfortunately, there are some kids who are bad eggs. What, you think all the kids at Echo Glen should be sent back to their public schools after serving time for murder or rape or assault or carjackings or whatever else it is? They're letting this kid back on campus, recognizing that the kid is a huge, huge problem, and saying, we got it. Yeah, because I'm sure public schools have this handled. Is this one of the schools that ban police from campus? Is this one of the schools that doesn't have metal detectors? They clearly do not value the kid's safety. They say safety and well-being is our highest priority. No, it's not, because otherwise you never would have entertained this. You would have said, this kid gets a public education, but he's going to get it on Zoom school. You're also sending him back to the place where he may have been targeting the very students around him. Maybe send him to a school for kids with special behavioral needs, something like that. Instead, you are sending him back to the very place where he was contemplating shooting up the school. Look, I didn't want to be in school when I was older. When I was younger, I never wanted to shoot the place up. But there were days I was losing my mind in school. You want to put this kid back there? You are setting yourselves up for failure. And you really think a public school employee is going to be up to the task of monitoring this kid? So who's doing the searches? Who's doing the searches? Let me give you an example. When I used to be a youth director, I would send the advisors, the counselors that we had, into the rooms to look for bad things. And they would say, Ari, we didn't find anything. And I said, where'd you look? And they said, well, we looked everywhere. I said, did you look in the toilet tanks? And they said, wait, what? I said, open the toilet tanks and see if there's beer or alcohol in there. One, you wouldn't think to look there, and two, it keeps it cold, and the water's clean in the toilet tank. And they go, I never would have thought of that. Who's searching this kid? You patting him down every day because you got issues with searches and seizures that way? You searching his locker every day, his backpack every day? If you are doing these things, you are acknowledging there is a safety issue. Tell you what, let's put it up to you guys. What do you think? Should they be allowed to search? No, better yet. Should this kid be allowed back on campus? Should this kid be allowed back on campus after bringing a loaded gun on campus? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Daniel in Lake Stevens. Daniel, what's going on?
Hey, I had a friend who was a teacher of mine tell me about a kid who wrote like a manifesto. About how he was gonna rape a teacher and stuff like that. And the school district let him continue to stay in the school because they didn't want to have to pay for the outside education, so they didn't want to have to pay for like a private education or going to like juvenile detention or something like that. So I don't know how accurate that is, but that was kind of hearsay from what I gathered.
In this specific case or a different case?
It was in a different case, but instead of the kid getting kicked out of the school, the reason why they kept him in the school and they had someone monitor him and like search him and all that stuff.
Because they didn't want to pay for the private school because they're required to provide the education. Because also that would send a very bad signal for the school choice advocates, wouldn't it now?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Daniel, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I'm definitely going to have to check that out and see if you can't provide the kid a public education, but you still have to provide the kid an education. Is that something you have to do where you really have to pay for private school for the kid because you can't accommodate them? Look, we know we have things that the public schools have to do for special needs kids. I wonder if they're doing the exact same thing in a case like this. It's kind of what it sounds like to me. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. There's a new ad running about Governor Gavin Newsom. People behind the ad are going to be joining us, show us how he clowned himself on a national stage. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Gavin Newsom seems intent on trying to be Donald Trump, and I guess imitation is the highest form of flattery, but he's just trying to copy his social media presence. All the absurdity that pretty much Donald Trump is the only one who can pull off. Look, we all have the stuff we can do on social media, and look, take me for a minute. I know that I cannot pull off wearing a pink shirt, so I don't wear a pink shirt. I just can't pull that off. But Gavin Newsom is trying to do his best impression of Donald Trump. Is it just to get attention? Is it just so he can run for president? But here's something else. While he's doing that, California is sinking deeper, deeper, deeper into the 10th circle of hell. Joining us now to discuss all this is Tom Manzo. He's the president and founder of the California Business and Industrial Alliance. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we love having you. So tell us about this ad that you ran in USA Today calling out Gavin Newsom and why you ran it.
Well, I mean, the frustrating part is it's pretty simple. I mean, we are a trade organization, and we represent small, medium-sized business. We have a few large businesses that are members of our group, and we advocate for labor law reform. We've got an 1,100-page labor law digest that we've got to follow, constantly getting attacked with lawsuits. It's never ending. There's so much bureaucracy when you do have a business and you're trying to run a business. And, at a certain point, it's almost offensive what he's doing, because instead of spending your time doing this, can you spend your time helping Californians out, and especially in the business community? Because all he's done is everything he can to make it harder. We came out with a full-page ad when they increased the minimum wage to $20 an hour for fast food workers and said, you've caused 8,500 jobs to be lost. And immediately his PR team attacked us. Immediately, these guys are getting dark money, and Rupert Murdoch must be behind it. Well, if Rupert Murdoch's listening right now, we'll take a donation, because we've never gotten one from him.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed about people like Gavin Newsom. The ego is absolutely out of control, where he can't deal with even a little ding here or a little ding there. It was his policy. It was his minimum wage policy that caused these problems with the restaurants, where now you have thousands of people out of work, restaurants closing all over the place because they just can't afford it. And it's directly as a result of his policy. And the worst thing is, everybody knows that when you do that with the minimum wage, happens here in Seattle, happens down there in California, happens in Washington State, this is a byproduct. You had plenty of warning, and he did it anyway.
Yeah, I did it anyway. And now, it's like a year later, and it's like, well, it's 18,000 jobs. Well, he's still disputing the figures. And you could just read the paper. You could look on any kind of social media. You can see every day restaurants closing, business owners leaving, more restaurants closing. We can't put up this. We're going to automate. We're going to do this. Personally, when I go to McDonald's, I don't want to have to order from a kiosk, but that's what everybody's doing now, because they're not going to be able to afford these kind of wages for employees. But that's just one issue of what's going on. And again, I go back to, why did we run a full-page ad? Because we're trying to raise awareness and call attention to how outrageous this behavior truly is.
So
he's become a social influencer and not the governor of California.
Well, the question is he ever really the governor of California? We're talking with Tom.
Well, from the looks of it, you would say no. I mean, we have a high-speed rail that's never going to get done. They burned through an unprecedented amount of money in the homeless crisis. They burned through a ton of money during COVID with everybody filing, unemployment claims. I mean, they're literally broke. And their biggest focus now is we're gonna redistrict and spend another $300 to $400 million. Well, I'm social media and advocating why I should be the president. Well, what about what's going on in California?
Right.
You've totally abandoned ship as far as I'm concerned.
Right, because when you look at the streets of California, my God, I thought our homeless problem was bad here in Seattle. The difference is in California, it's very, very similar, but California has a lot more people than Seattle, than Washington. So as a result, the crisis looks much, much worse. We're talking with Tom Manzo, who's president and founder of the California Business and Industrial Alliance, which ran this ad calling out Governor Gavin Newsom. So we know that he's vindictive. After you ran this ad, what was the reaction?
It's funny. We haven't seen a reaction yet, but we've got some follow-ups we plan on doing, because we want to get that reaction. He needs to realize, this isn't the time to do it. And quite frankly, I think he's embarrassing California. And look at what recently happened. Marcus Leonis, everybody knows who that person is. He's been on TV. The guy's a business owner, a very successful man, take over a bankrupt Bed Bath & Beyond, trying to get it going. And he says, hey, California is not the place we can go. And what's Newsom's response? You're irrelevant. So you're telling somebody, I mean, you're pushing people out of this state. The woman that owns In-N-Out, I'm moving my headquarters. I'm moving out personally. Elon Musk, I'm moving out. I'm moving my headquarters. How many more people are going to move out and leave the state? And now you're wondering why you have a tax deficit? It's hard to believe sometimes when you watch what's going on here in the state.
Yeah. And believe me, if anybody understands, it's us here in Washington because we have so many of the similar problems that are going on around here. I completely understand where you guys are coming from. Just before we let you go, you guys aren't taking a position of we want somebody else for president. You guys are just kind of taking the position of, dude, we want you running the state. We don't want you running for president. But at the same time, if he has your full attention, aren't you worried things are just going to get worse?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, that's the thing is he has not done anything, as far as I'm concerned, but make it more and more difficult year after year after year for people to run a business. Small to medium-sized businesses continue to get suffocated by their policies. And a lot of these policies are created by big labor unions influencing these legislators, just following along with everything that they're doing. So at this time, yeah, he needs to do his job. Maybe he's never done his job. I have no idea. It doesn't look like it. On a balance sheet or a profit and loss statement, you would look at him and he would be fired. If he was the CEO of any company, he would be fired. He would have been fired a long time ago. But for some reason, you know, he's been able to survive. And we need to do something about it. I think next year we need to go to the polls and we need to make a difference and we need to make some changes in the legislators we have and send a message. We're tired of this. The pendulum has swung too far. Get back to basics. Get back to supporting business owners.
Yeah, and California was such a beautiful place and had so much potential. And along come the Democrats and say, we're going to take all the money, we're going to destroy the beauty that was California. Tom Manzo, president and founder of the California Business and Industrial Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, including our Real Deal giveaway, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Mike and I review the latest movies. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Summer blockbuster movie season is coming to an end, and I don't know of any big Labor Day releases. We used to get like 1 or 2 to finish out the summer. I don't really see any on my radar. I think soon enough we're going to be into the horror movie releases in the fall, and then before you know it, we'll be into the Christmas movie releases and the big blockbusters heading into winter break. Mike, you had a chance to go peruse the latest offerings from Hollywood. What'd you see this week?
Yeah. I was invited to a press screening of Honey Don't, which we gave away tickets to, and from this point forward, I will pronounce it the way that it's written on the poster, in all caps with an exclamation point, Honey Don't! But no, it's a dark comedy from Ethan Coen, who is half of the famous Coen brothers directing team, Fargo, Big Lebowski, Raising Arizona, that kind of thing. And this is kind of cut from the same cloth. It stars Margaret Qualley as Honey O'Donoghue, a small-town private investigator who delves into a series of strange deaths tied to a mysterious church led by Chris Evans. It also stars Aubrey Plaza and Charlie Day, and if I've given you that cast, you probably have a good idea of why I wanted to watch this movie. But it's fun. The cast is the engine that makes it go. All of the performances are terrific. Everybody is fun, and everybody understands what this movie is. It's fun, it's dark, it's quirky, it's quippy. It's one of those kind of like firecracker dialogue type of movies. But talking to you now, Ari, I'm as mixed as the critics are. It's pretty much straight down the middle. I like it more than I don't. But it's not perfect. It's stylish, it's slick, it's fun. But the plot is really undercooked. They kind of disregard the main mystery very quickly. It's occasionally incoherent, and the ending is too abrupt for my taste. There's a twist that's instantly resolved, and then the movie is over. This movie is 88 minutes, so you get in and out. It doesn't take a lot of your time. But so much so that I think I told you and Zach about this after I came back from the advanced screening. I had talked about the ending and it being abrupt. So much so that I actually got into an argument with another critic right in front of the nice lady with the clipboard. I'm trying to give my review, and this dude does basically sideswipes me and basically mansplains to me the tropes of classic noir detective movies. And I'm not the smartest movie critic around. I mean, I work on the Ari Hoffman Show, for crying in the rain. But I understand tropes, and I understood this one. It's person actually looks me in the eye and says, I don't think that you do, when I said I understood the tropes. I felt bad for the nice lady with the clipboard, because she and I were really vibing and talking about how this movie kind of feels more like the pilot of a TV series than a full movie. It's weirdly incomplete.
Hang on one second, Mike. Just point of order for a second here. What a person like that doesn't realize is they may have a genre they like. There are people who go to see Star Wars who have never seen Star Wars before. And it would be like one of us walking up to them and going, you don't understand why it was terrible. Or why it was good. Because you don't really know Star Wars. And you know what? Movies are for everybody.
Yeah.
They may use classic tropes. And sometimes I find that more entertaining when you tell me, hey, you didn't know all this stuff was in there. Oh, fascinating. Like those little videos that come out on my social media all the time. Did you know in this movie or that movie?
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. Right? And the auto-tune. Did you know that
in this movie? Right. Oh. And you know what? That's a critic who is there for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. And they took their bias with them, whereas I was pretty open-minded for what this movie was, because as soon as I left, and may have cursed over my shoulder as I stomped off, but they give the biggest flowery, oh my gosh, this is a love letter to the genre and this and that and the other thing. That person liked the movie way more than I did. Again, I think it's fun. I like it more than I don't. But it is kind of a mess. If you're not there for the performances, if you're really there for a gritty film noir type of thing, this might not be for you. For me, it's fun throwaway trash, not unlike the sleazy detective stories it's an homage to. Like so many empty calories. This is a very empty calories movie. Before I wrap up, though, I do have to give a content warning for our audience. This movie is rated R for checks notes, some strong violence, language, graphic nudity, and strong sexual content. The poster doesn't lie. I came in the next day and I pulled Zach aside. I'm like, it's the "I'm no prude" speech. I'm no prude, but the sexual content was, if I were to describe it in a single description, it would be distractingly graphic. Wow. To the point where it kind of takes away from the movie. It's not a pornography or anything like that, but like not being a prudish person myself, I still found my sensibilities challenged by the intense graphic content.
And that's something else. When you review the movies, you're reviewing them for this audience.
Yeah.
And that other person was reviewing them for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you're going, okay, how do we explain this to the mainstream person who doesn't necessarily know film noir or anything else?
Mm-hmm.
And you're also giving our audience a warning because there was this thing in there that put you off a little bit, right?
It did crack me up though a little bit, Ari, because like, you know, we've been to enough screenings together where they show like the poster on the movie screen before it starts. It even says on the poster, quote unquote, "She only has two desires and one of them is justice." And I'm like, what's the other one? What's the other? Oh, that's the other one. So if that's the kind of content you can hang with, check out Honey Don't.
Also, thanks to our friends over at Ally Global Marketing for having Mike out there so we could do these movie reviews. And also, just a quick note before we wrap up, is that I saw one of those, did you know, about Chris Evans, and I went back and checked it out. He actually turned down the Captain America role multiple times. And then somebody said to him, you'll be able to do any role you want after this. Have you noticed the roles he's done since he got Captain America? It's a lot of artsy-fartsy or whatever unique genre, shall we say. And guess what? That's exactly what was able to happen because they want Captain America in their movie. He's a bankable box office star now.
Absolutely. He's a name and a face you can put on this poster to market it. He's fun as hell in this movie. Like, he knows what movies he's in, and he's chewing the scenery. It's a really fun, sleazy performance. It's far and away from Captain America.
I love his stuff. I will watch anything that dude's in. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we're giving away two tickets to an advanced screening of The Long Walk from highly anticipated adaptation of master storyteller Stephen King's first written novel. You get to see The Long Walk before anybody else does. See The Long Walk in theaters on September 12th. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes, be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win two tickets to an advanced screening of The Long Walk. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more insanity, including a boat captain who was pulled over for being drunk while operating a giant cargo ship. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Congratulations to Campbell in Puyallup. You are the proud winner of 2 tickets to an advanced screening of The Long Walk. Your next chance to win is coming up at 5:45 during our Good News giveaway. But before we get to that, I went back to the gym today. Oh, dear God. I have really let myself go since COVID. If you're watching on the video, you can see 1 day at the gym, 1 hour at the gym, what it has done. Okay, hasn't done much. But I will say this is something I'm trying to be accountable with. If you want to follow my gym journey or just make fun of me, make sure you're following me over on Instagram at The Hofffather on Facebook and Instagram. You can check it. I'm sorry, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on Twitter, and you can follow that along. But today, I saw a video over the weekend, and I got a buddy who's going with me and holding me accountable a little bit. He's way better at this stuff than I am, in way better shape. And I said, "Hey, dude, you're bench pressing over there." And I said, "What do you set on right now?" And he goes, "I don't know, about 165, 175. And I said, "Can you put it on 135? He said, "What, you want to do the Mamdani thing?" I said, "Yeah, let's do the Mamdani thing." Mike, I think the last time I actually did bench pressing, I did CrossFit for a little while, but was that, I mean, I know there's weightlifting involved in that, but forget that. I think the last time I cared about what you bench, I think the last time I cared about that may have been when I was 18 years old. You know, when I was in good shape last was when I was hauling the bounce houses for my event rental company, and that wasn't what can you bench, it was how many staffers do I need to help me lift this thing because it's so heavy. I was in great shape back then. I had my buddy set it on 135. I'll post this video later. It's me pounding out that 135 like nobody's business. Haven't lifted those weights in years. It's not because I'm strong. It's because I know what I can handle, know what I can't handle. I was a little worried, and I said, you know what? Worst case scenario, I just won't post a video of this. I don't know if you saw this video out of New York over the weekend with Mamdani. Somehow there's some weightlifting thing going on in the middle of the street. I don't know what event he was campaigning at, but they encourage him to bench press 135. Mike, I haven't been to the gym in quite some time, but I also know that when you're a skinny little nothing like Mamdani, it is very hard to bench press your own weight. What do you think? Mamdani's maybe 155, 165 tops?
Soaking wet, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so Mamdani goes in to try and do this bench pressing, and he's got a guy spotting him. But shall we just say the guy spotting him is doing the lion's share worth of work? If you remember the movie Space Cowboys with Clint Eastwood and Tommy Lee Jones going to space, and they're trying to impress the young NASA recruits, and you can tell that James Gardner is really helping Tommy Lee Jones lift that weight, and they both say, "Oh, I'm going to go cry afterwards," right? That's what this looked like. Mamdani couldn't do it. There was a thing with our youth group back when I was running the thing where I never played ball with the kids. Because every director I know in the youth group was always injured. And I said, "How'd you injure yourself?" And they say, "Playing ball with those damn kids." I said, "Well, that's why I don't do it. Plus, they'll think I'm really, really good and just don't want to beat them," right? That was the thinking? Yeah. So here's the thing about Mamdani. Clearly, I understand you're in the zone and everybody's cheering your name and like, "Yeah, let's see him do it. Woo!" And you don't want to look like a wuss. But this was really bad for him. Really, really bad for him. Is it going to affect the election? No, not really. I doubt it will. I don't think anything can really stop this guy. But it is clear he can't bench press. Is that the secret to success? No. Every single program this guy has an idea for has been tried and has failed. Literally every single one. So he has a new plan. What's his new plan? He wants to end the enforcement of misdemeanor crimes in New York City. Oh, brilliant. I think we should all give that a go. Let's end the misdemeanors and let's see. Oh, wait, we tried that already in 2020? Yes, we tried that. And Seattle tried that a lot longer than most with the decriminalization of drugs. How'd that work out for Portland? How'd that work out for Seattle? How'd that work out for Oregon? How'd that work out for Washington State? How is that working out for California and New York and all these other cities? When you do this nonsense, crime goes up and things get worse. So he wants to do this. He wants to end the enforcement of misdemeanor crimes. So the opposite of broken windows. Let them do what they want, and it'll be fine. That is Mamdani's great plan. Dude, we tried this already. It was a colossal failure. A colossal failure. But you want to double down and you want to give that a go? Really? This is your big plan. You know what this is like? Let's just get rid of crimes, of the actual crimes, so that way we don't have crime stats anymore, right? That's what we'll do. We'll just get rid of it, and then we can say crime went down, even though people said, what the hell are you talking about? They tried that here in Washington. They tried that in Oregon, and crime went through the roof, even though they said our crime stats are down. Gee, I wonder how this is going to work out.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
It's not going to pay off for him. We all know what's going to happen. But then he gets to claim crime is down, crime is down, crime is down. Nah, not really going to be the case. How about his other plan? This experiment with free buses for public transportation? According to the New York Post, Kansas City's $50 million experiment with free bus fare is hitting the brakes because the city can no longer afford it. Mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani's socialist proposals, including free buses in the 5 boroughs and Soviet-style city-owned grocery stores, are now 0-2. I love the New York Post. When tried elsewhere after Kansas City's own venture with a government-run grocery abruptly closed earlier this month. The Midwest city used federal COVID-19 relief money in 2020 to become the first city in the country to institute free buses. So you used money that had an expiration date on it. And then you said, all right, we're going to try this out, and then we'll be able to tax people for it later. But local funding dried up. Riders and conductors slammed those buses as unreliable, filthy, rolling homeless shelters. This sounds really, really familiar. But unlike here where they have unlimited money from car tabs, which I think is getting more limited by the day, they don't have that, so they're stopping the program because it's a colossal failure. Because guess what? When you don't have the money to maintain things anymore, they get worse and worse and worse. Look, you could do mass transit for cheaper because the idea of mass transit is more people are taking it. But there's no such thing as anything being free. There's always a cost to everything. So now he is 0-2 in his failed programs that he still wants to bring to New York. The misdemeanors is going to make it 3. Is there a single policy program that this guy has that's actually going to work? You want to look ahead a little bit at how socialism gets you? Here's a new study. Seattle is among the top 10 least affordable Labor Day travel destinations. Do you know why? Because everything here is more expensive. I was listening to a competitor's radio station this morning on my drive-in, and when I was listening to this thing, they were discussing why things are so expensive in Seattle. At no point did they mention the taxes. At no point did they mention that things are more expensive because of the Climate Commitment Act. As you can guess, this was a more liberal station. At no point did they look at all the things they had supported in how it has driven costs through the roof. A study by Dunhill Travel Deals found that Seattle ranked number 92 out of 100 U.S. destinations when factoring in best values for airfare, lodging, meals, and rental cars. Why do you think that is? Everything is impacted by the cost of fuel. Everything is impacted by the cost of workers. I bet you the only ones that beat us are probably in Hawaii and California. That would be my guess because of how unaffordable it has become here, how unaffordable it is. And are things getting better? No, we're wasting our money on stupid. I saw this headline the other day. Mike sent it to me also this morning. Sometimes you and I are in 100% sync, right? Nails scattered on SR-19 cause traffic chaos. Pedestrian arrested. So I see this from Como News, and I go, oh, a pedestrian. What a nice way of saying a taxpayer-funded drug addict. Yes, because I know anytime I go walking, I make sure to take a box of nails with me. By the way, if you haven't seen the pictures of this was not a box of nails. This was many boxes of nails that were dumped on the freeway to cause tremendous damage. So according to Como News, a significant traffic disruption occurred on westbound State Route 16 on Sunday morning after a pedestrian Yes, Mike, I know that whenever I'm driving on a freeway, there's always pedestrians on the freeways, right? Who lives under the freeway? Who lives on the sides of freeways? Pedestrians. That's our new term for them. Pedestrians. Okay, not homeless, not drug addicts, not mentally unstable. No. Pedestrians. Oh, this is great. Washington State. By the way, I can't blame Como for this. They're just quoting the Washington Department of Transportation. They were on the scene trying to clear the debris. See a guy with a leaf blower trying to blow all these things away. They reopened the thing eventually, but the pedestrian is in custody and booked into jail for first-degree malicious mischief, which means he'll be out on the street in about 5 seconds, right? Because he's a pedestrian. He's not a criminal. He's just a pedestrian. So we had to worry about rock throwing season, had to worry about protesters shutting down the freeways. Now we got to worry about pedestrians with boxes of nails on the freeway. Really hope they got them all. That's pretty bad. Pedestrians. Oh, give me a break. In one other crazy story in our wonderful city of ours, according to the King County prosecutor, the captain of a container ship was arrested Wednesday in Seattle for allegedly operating the vessel while intoxicated. I shouldn't laugh. Those things are giant bombs on water. According to the Coast Guard Investigative Service, the incident began when the Coast Guard sector Puget Sound received a report from a Puget Sound pilot aboard the MSC Jubilee 9, a 1,093-foot container ship operating under Liberian flag. Time out. I need to explain some nautical stuff to you guys. So what this means is when a boat comes into a harbor, they don't necessarily know the harbor that well. And a harbor pilot, somebody hired by that city or that port, will say, you want to go this way, you want to go that way. I'm the captain now. I'm going to direct in your ship because otherwise you might hit something. For example, those of you who have seen which one was it? License to Kill. Timothy Dalton's second outing as James Bond. You know where the Bond girl pretends to be the harbor pilot and then crashes the wave crest into the dock because she's trying to cause a distraction so 007 can sneak on board through the wave pool and then dump the drug money, making Sanchez think that Crest was stealing the money from him. So then Sanchez throws him inside the decompression chamber where the money is and makes him explode? Okay, good. Now you know what I'm talking about. So apparently the pilot, the harbor pilot from Puget Sound Pilot Association, is the one who said, hey, the captain of this ship is drunk. So this guy was showing signs of intoxication, apparently was 6 times the legal limit by the time he was tested. So how much was he times the legal limit when this was all happening? The pilot and first mate took over the ship's operation, ensuring safe passage without incident. Upon the ship's arrival at Terminal 5, a Coast Guard boarding team began an examination. This guy apparently denied drinking alcohol and said he had only consumed mouthwash. Yeah, I've tried that one before. I'm not drunk. I swear I'm not drunk. I was just brushing my teeth. Failed a field sobriety and breathalyzer test, 6 times the legal limit. The report also says that he performed so poorly on the field sobriety test, the personnel stopped the tests before they could be completed. How drunk do you have to be for that one? They had to get a relief captain. Oh, man, this is just, I love our city sometimes, the fun news you get. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line and take a call from our good friend Alma. Alma, what's going on?
Oh, it's all about the Benjamins.
What, you mean the boat captain? He did it because he was getting dared to do it for some money? Is that what you think?
Probably. No, this is what I want to say. I don't know if you're going to like this or not, but I got a good ticket for us next when Trump leaves office. Mondani and Newsom.
Wait a second. Alma.
And Mondani.
Alma, I know you don't like Mamdani. Newsom, I understand why you like Newsom. I know you're thinking by now, Alma, but Mamdani. Okay, Alma, I'm just going to ask you this. You're not a socialist, right?
Yes.
No, you're not. No, you want the government to control everything, Alma?
Well, they doing it now under Trump. They controlling what we eat. They got all them. He done took over all these cities. So what? else can we ask for?
Wait a second. You want, let me just make sure I got this right, Alma. You want the government to run the grocery stores. You want that to happen.
Well, it couldn't be any worse than it is now. Let me just say that.
Wait a second. Alma, what grocery store do you shop at where things are so bad?
All of them. But let me say this. You yourself know all the things that I hate to say that Republicans are doing is detrimental. Look at the rural areas. They all that voted for Trump, they're losing their funding, they're losing their schools. And another thing, one more thing, let me say this real quick before I forget. I'm 79. Let me say one more thing. Trump should release the Epstein file like he asked Obama to release his birthday.
Wait a second. Okay. Before we make the Epstein jump, let's deal with the other stuff first, okay? So you want socialized health care that'll say to you, 79-year-old Alma, we don't think it's worth treating you because it's too expensive. We're okay with you dying. You want that?
They're doing it now. They're shutting down all the hospitals.
Well, then I think you have a lousy medical plan, Alma. But I know that in private medicine, that's not what they do. So that's a huge problem.
Just let Trump and the Republicans stay in the White House another year or two, and we won't have any medical plan. Right now, Biden, now let's get Biden a little credit. Insulin, $35. Do you know under the new plan, insulin's going to go up? Well, you say to those people. So I might well be a socialist.
Well, Alma, the problem I have is that a lot of our capitalist programs have been socialized, and that's why they're having problems. So, like, take me, for example, Alma. All right, I never had any pre-existing conditions. I never had any issues whatsoever. I liked my plan. I wanted to keep my plan. But now, because of Obamacare, I am paying triple what I paid before, and I didn't get to keep the plan I had. Is that right?
But can I ask? That's right. But can I ask you what category of? I'm not going to ask you income because it makes a difference on how much you make to be under the Obama plan. So I can't ask you that. But think about it.
Well, Alma, I'll tell you this, Alma. Radio money ain't TV money. Okay, so don't think I'm in this. Don't think I'm in this super wealthy category. I'll tell you this, okay? It was a normal working salary.
You will be in the White House because you are a firm believer in Donald J. Trump. I'm sorry.
Well, hang on a second, Alma. Hang on. Here I was about to tell you that the next segment, I'm actually going to tell everybody a big issue that I disagree with Donald Trump on. You going to stick around for that, Alma? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to stick around.
Okay. You make sure you're listening in the next segment because I'm going to do that. God bless you, Alma. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Like I said, when we come back, my friends, an issue that I very much disagree with President Trump on, so much so that I'm going to do an entire segment about it. But before we get to any of that, time for Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. President Trump and I are both huge baseball fans. I know this for a fact that he is actually a very, very big baseball fan. And he is a big baseball fan because his parents were big Mets fans. And as a result of that, he was a big Mets fan as well. I know this through the oddest way possible. At Citi Field, which is where the Mets play in New York, when they were building the stadium, they had spend X amount of money and dedicate a brick of the stadium outside on the fan walk to somebody you love. Lots of stadiums do things like this. Synagogues, churches, everybody does something like that. We bought a brick for our father because he's the one who made us Mets fans. Me and my brother and my sister, we bought a brick for my father. I've got a replica of it, which the Mets send you. And given how much it cost, yeah, I'm going to enjoy that brick. Thank you. That's sitting on a shelf at home. Okay. My sister got married at Citi Field. It was a gift from one of his relatives, the guy who she married. He had some connection or something like that. She was, if not the first wedding, the first Jewish wedding at Citi Field. So we had the place to ourselves for this wedding. Okay? I mean, a couple hundred people at a wedding. The place holds 50,000 people. Now me, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be all slick. I'm going to bring some money. I'm going to bribe some security guards. It's New York, right? I get to see all the fun stuff. No way. That was not happening. They let you see the places you see, and you were not going anywhere else. But I had some time where there's not thousands of people walking across the fan walk for the first time to go see the brick. This was years ago. So I see the brick, and I noticed that right next to the brick is one, and this is before he was president of the United States, the one Donald Trump bought for his parents on the fan walk is right next to the one we bought for my father. It's right there. In honor of Fred Trump, blah, 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 from his children. Okay, here's a picture of it. I was worried when they were destroying his walk of fame that they might go after his fan brick, and then my fan brick would be at risk. Yes.
Caught in the crossfire. Oh, no.
I know.
Collateral damage.
Look at the friendlies. Oh, no, my brick. Will they repair my brick, or will the Mets just sell it to somebody else? Because that's the way they are. Yes, I got the prize spot. We are next to Donald Trump. And I was so curious about this. I said, wait, that can't be the same one, right? Yeah, it actually is. So Donald Trump, you can actually see him at Mets games all the time before he was president, back when he was a real estate guy. I think the Trump organization has seats at Citi Field. But President Trump does these weird takes on baseball, and this one really bothered me. So remember when he said Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame? And I said, dude, the guy's a cheater. No, I didn't like that he was on ESPN. If you're banned from baseball, you shouldn't be allowed to be on ESPN covering baseball for the World Series and the playoffs. If you think he should be in, maybe you disagree with me. You think Pete Rose should be in there? Then okay, let him on the ESPN. But do we have any standards about this whatsoever? So President Trump posts on social media the other day that Roger Clemens should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens. Now, you may remember Roger Clemens from the Simpsons episode of the softball team with all the baseball players because he's the one who ends up clucking like a chicken. That's Roger Clemens. The way the rest of us remember Roger Clemens is he's got Hall of Fame numbers. Don't get me wrong. But he was named in the Mitchell Report, which investigated steroid and human growth hormone in Major League Baseball. He even faced federal charges for perjury and obstruction of Congress. By the way, that was the best way to watch baseball in the offseason when they had all the baseball players testifying before Congress. Really stupid, but still kind of fun to watch. He was acquitted in 2012, but anybody from the steroid era has never gotten into the Hall of Fame. They always skip Bobby Bonilla, Mark McGwire. All those guys have been passed over by the Baseball Writers Association. All of them.
Yeah, it's a cursed era, basically.
Exactly. It was amazing that Mike Piazza got in there, but Mike Piazza never had the steroid allegations because he always looked like a Mack truck. Here's what I want you to do. Go look at Bobby Bonilla on his rookie card and look at Bobby Bonilla afterwards. Look at Roger Clemens on his rookie card and look at him after. Look at Mark McGwire, all those guys. Mike Piazza always looked like a human truck. So he didn't have that cloud around him as other people did. Here's the other thing. Speaking of Mike Piazza, many of you don't know this because I'm a huge Mets fan, but in the 2000 World Series, Mike Piazza got a bat thrown at him by Roger Clemens. And the joke at the time was, look how roided up he is. His roid rage, he throws a bat at somebody. And you're like, why does a pitcher have a bat?
Well, it was a broken bat, right? If I remember
so
correctly.
What happens is, let's go back. A little more history here. Let's go back a little bit more. He always threw high and tight fastballs at anybody he didn't like. He was known as a mean guy, not the best sportsman kind of guy. During the 2000 regular season, he beamed Mike Piazza in the head with a ball on purpose, and Mike Piazza couldn't go to the All-Star game. So now you're like, all right, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And they have all this buildup with what's going to happen. And what happens is Mike Piazza hits a ball, the bat breaks, and a piece of it comes towards Roger Clemens. As Mike Piazza is running to first base, Roger Clemens picks up what's left of the bat and throws it at Mike Piazza, that roided out lunatic.
Which is essentially a steak at this point. Like
Yes.
like he's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He's like, Blade the Daywalker. I'm going to get you, Mike Piazza. He's a vampire. He's a vampire.
So
don't throw broken bats at people.
Right. This is the guy he wants in the Hall of Fame. This guy, if you want to say some of the baseball players who missed it because of World War II. All right. Let's do that. I'm with you, President Trump. But Pete Rose? Roger Clemens? This is who you want? He's always arguing with umpires. This guy got thrown out of the 1990 ALCS for swearing at an umpire. And this is the guy you want going into the Hall of Fame? President Trump, I love you. I do. But what are you talking about here? Really? This is the guy you want going into the Hall of Fame? Pete Rose, I understand the argument. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I do get it. So I wasn't this hard on President Trump. But Roger Clemens, what were you watching? Like some retrospective on baseball or something? And then you decide to just go on True Social and say, Roger Clemens should be in the Hall of Fame. What? Were you watching a recap of the Mets getting beaten by the Yankees at that World Series? Were you watching that play and you went, you know what? I mean, like, I almost went into Inslee for a second there. I almost did my Inslee for Trump. Almost reverted right for that. No, so were you just watching this thing and go, I think he's the greatest baseball pitcher there's ever been. I think he's the greatest one. And I think Mike Piazza's in the Hall of Fame. Mike Piazza, great player. And the Yankees won that World Series. We should send in Roger Clemens. Look at how he throws that bat. With such excellence, he almost staked him right through the heart. Like Mike said, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, only a pitcher. What are you talking about here? This is what you want? Look, the truth is that he just has this, because of the unfreezing process, he has no control over his inner monologue. And that's fine, and it's entertaining. But what are we talking about here? For this? Now, here's something else. Do you guys think that Roger Clemens should be in the Hall of Fame? Do you think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame? Do you think we should get rid of the American and National Leagues? I don't know if you caught this the other day when the Mets were playing the Mariners during the Little League Classic, as they called it, which is so funny to me. It's the Mets and the Mariners in that one. Two more deserving teams cannot be named of who belongs in the Little League Classic than the Mets and the Mariners.
It kind of cracked me up, Ari, because I was out at lunch with a friend of mine. We were at a local tavern in Tacoma, and the game just happened to come on.
Sure.
But it was like a half hour before the game, so it's like all these like Little League kids running around, and it's like, what is this? And even once the game got going, it's like, what is this? We were very confused.
By the way, I had no idea it was happening. I just thought it was a home game in New York. And I didn't know about all this nonsense. And I turned it on. I'm like, what is happening right now? What is this business? Well, Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Baseball, was being interviewed during the broadcast. Listen to what he said.
In my mind, I think if we expand, it provides us with an opportunity to geographically realign. I think we could save a lot of wear and tear on our players in terms of travel. And I think our postseason format would be even more appealing for, entities like ESPN, because you'd be playing up out of the East, out of the West, and that 10 o'clock time slot where we, sometimes get Boston, Anaheim, would be two West Coast teams, and that 10 o'clock slot that's a problem for us sometimes becomes a real opportunity for our West Coast audience. So I think, I think the owners realize that there's demand for Major League Baseball in a lot of great cities, and we have an opportunity to do something good around that expansion process.
So wait a second. He's talking about getting rid of the American and National League. Now, with interleague play and with the designated hitter, there's not much of a difference anymore. So would you even care? But that's what they're now talking about doing. That's what he told ESPN during the broadcast. I don't want the Mets playing the Yankees 5 times a year. That's bad news for us. Think about who's here. You want the Mariners playing the Dodgers a bunch of times during the year? Because that's what would happen. You in favor of this, not in favor of this? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Gavin Newsom says living clean and sober is a bad idea. I kid you not. He literally was against this. We'll tell you about this craziness when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Governor Gavin Newsom believes that being clean and sober is a bad idea. He thinks that is just not the way to go. Couldn't believe he said this out loud during a press conference.
Clean and sober is one of the biggest damn mistakes this country's ever made. I know it's a hold your hand idealistic point of view that somehow magically, I mean, God bless some of you. If you're like me, I've been known to have a glass of wine at night watching some of the nightly news. We all need to self-medicate periodically.
I'm sorry, what did he just say? Wow. Now we know why the homeless situation is so bad in California. Because, everybody needs to self-medicate occasionally. Am I right? Am I right? That's what we're going with. Yeah, don't go with the clean and sober lifestyle. Just self-medicate. Life getting too hard? Self-medicate. No problem. Piece of cake. That's your plan? This fool is who's running California. So when you have a massive taxpayer-funded drug crisis on your hands, you're going to say, yeah, we don't want to get anybody clean. Yeah, it's fine. He enjoys his glass of rosé every night. You're talking about the guy who owns vineyards and wineries. Oh, that's why he doesn't want everybody sober, because otherwise he'll stop making money. Oh, unbelievable. Saying that everybody's just got to self-medicate. Everybody's had a little fentanyl, right? Who hasn't? Who hasn't? Well, if you've been on the light rail, you have by accident. Come on, who hasn't had a little methamphetamine from time to time? Are you kidding me? Man, California, what an absolute disaster. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Doug in Spanaway. Doug, what's going on, man?
As far as I'm concerned, if anybody belongs in the Hall of Fame, it's Pete Rose. I mean, of everybody that's ever been put in there. I mean, you know, he was singled out. I mean, he may have broken a rule that actually was stupid to begin with. He never bet against his own team.
Wait a second. Doug. You're saying that making a rule banning betting in baseball when you're involved in baseball is a stupid rule after what happened with the Chicago White Sox in the World Series?
Well, that was a totally different scenario. And not only that, Pete Rose was the type of guy, he would have never bet against his own team. That was pretty obvious. Plus, you got countless drug addicts that are in the Hall of Fame. Nobody kicked them out for snorting cocaine and breaking them laws that pertain to everybody in the United States. So, as far as the steroid use, that was common knowledge within the league and all the owners. That you know, I was against the steroid use, but the owners and the league was behind part of that. So,
well, they were enjoying it while they could, because what they were enjoying was all the long balls and all these people watching to see Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds. Sorry, I kept saying Bobby Bonilla. Barry Bonds break these home run records. That's what they were looking for, right? And that's not what they wanted to get rid of. That's what was going on there. Appreciate the call, Doug. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. John in Auburn brings it back home to the Mariners, by the way. Ari and Big Mike. Big props to Cal Raleigh, a guy playing the hardest position, hitting bombs from both sides of the plate. Definitely needs a mention for MVP. Yeah, we saw that magic this weekend. Meanwhile, getting back to what's happening in California, by the way, House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan and Representative Kevin Kiley have demanded that Fire Aid produce a detailed breakdown of where donations to benefit the victims of the Los Angeles wildfires have gone, and the remaining $25 million out of the $100 million donated to the organization be sent directly to the LA fire victims. If you don't remember the story, when you had the big fires that took out Malibu and all these other places in California, you have all these people raising money for it. All these nonprofits raised $100 million, and yet none of the victims have seen any money. It went to all these nonprofits, and now only $25 million of it is left. Man, talk about a grift. Fire Aid was organized by Irving Azoff and Shelley Azoff, claimed to be sending donations directly to fire victims. A letter from Jordan and Kiley stated, in response to wildfires, you organized Fire Aid to raise money for California fire victims. Fire Aid held a benefit concert raising $100 million, which are promised to send directly to people affected by the wildfires. However, according to public records, Fire Aid diverted these donations to nonprofits instead of providing direct relief to fire victims. As part of our constitutional oversight responsibility, we request your voluntary cooperation with oversight of this matter. When confronted with the fact that the raised funds were not directly given to those affected, Fire Aid stated that it does not have the capability to make direct payments to individuals, and that was never the plan. We partnered with trusted local nonprofits to reach communities in need. Yet Fire Aid advertised that the $100 million have been designated for direct relief and will not be used for administrative purposes. The donated money that was meant to go towards victims to assist in rebuilding efforts was instead sent to nonprofits with purposes unrelated to fire relief. For example, one of the nonprofits claims to promote self-determination in the Latino community. Another nonprofit claims to cultivate egalitarian relationships based on trust and respect. Why were those organizations able to do it or not able to do it? Why couldn't Fire Aid just give out the money directly? Of course you can do that directly when you are doing beneficiary organizations. Insanity. Absolute insanity. Meanwhile, one more crazy thing out of California. The former fire chief in L.A., remember the one who was a DEI hire and completely incompetent? She is now suing Karen Bass, claiming the mayor threw her under the bus to shift fire blame. Well, hang on one second here. Let's be fair. The fire chief didn't know the fire hydrants didn't have water in them. Let's do that. Why didn't you go to the media and tell everybody? So this is on you. Did Karen Bass find an easy scapegoat for somebody incompetent who was appointed under DEI principles? Absolutely. In this case, nobody's right. Everybody's wrong. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus tickets to the Washington State Fair. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway and our good news headlines, got an update on a story earlier in the show today. I just heard from a contact of mine. Remember, we told you that there was a guy with a gun on 4th Avenue South earlier today? Well, apparently the suspect has been found, and they were not targeting the Jewish Federation of Greater Seattle, and they were not targeting the feds. It was a lunatic, drug addict, mental health problem type with a toy gun that was spotted on the street. Mike, aren't we really glad that I said, hey, you know, across the street is that drug facility? I wonder if it was one of those guys? Turns out likely that's the case. So just another day in Seattle. Meanwhile, I saw this story here. I didn't know people were throwing around Glenn Powell's name for James Bond. Didn't we already pick somebody for James Bond? Well, during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, the 36-year-old actor who is currently promoting his upcoming sports comedy series, Chad Powers, explained why he should not be cast as the next James Bond. He said, quote, "I'm a Texan. A Texan should not play James Bond. My family and I joke around. I could play Jimmy Bond, but I should not be playing James Bond. Get an authentic Brit for that job. That's who belongs in that tuxedo." While Powell has seemingly taken his name out of the mix, Pierce Brosnan, who portrayed 007 from 1995 until 2002, wouldn't be opposed to returning to the James Bond franchise after Denis Villeneuve, who signed on to the project. During a recent interview with the Radio Times, Brosnan joked, "I don't think anyone wants to see a craggy 72-year-old Bond." Well, wait a minute. Didn't we see that in Diamonds Are Forever? Didn't we see that in Never Say Never Again? That's literally what we saw with Sean Connery. We saw a craggy old James Bond. No, but I think it would be fun to see Pierce Brosnan as a bad guy. I think it would have been fun to see Sean Connery as a bad guy. We know that role in Skyfall was actually written for Sean Connery, the guy who watched the guy who's the caretaker of the Skyfall property. We know that was written for Sean Connery, but he said he wouldn't do it. Said, why not? It's great entertainment. Could be lots of laughs. Bald caps, prosthetics, who knows? Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. This is one of those clickbaity articles we all enjoy. However, in other news, NASA's Artemis campaign is a bold series of missions to take humans back to the moon. And those astronauts will get there thanks to help from rocket engines made right here in Washington State. According to Como News, if we didn't make these engines, then there wouldn't be any sort of orbital maneuvering system. There wouldn't be a way for the crew module to come back to Earth safely. It's really important that we make these engines and we know that they work well and work right, said Catherine Luschek, who's from L3 Harris Orion. She's their deputy program manager. We are told that each of the first 3 Artemis missions uses 32 rocket engines produced at the L3 Harris facility in Redmond. NASA representatives were there checking it out this week. NASA astronaut Woody Hoberg said there is so much to do on the moon, we're going there for science. There are scientific discoveries to be made. The Apollo missions only went to the equatorial regions. Imagine if you visited Earth, but only went to the equator. There's so much more to see on the moon. The next mission, planned no later than April of next year, will take humans around the moon for the first time since 1972. Quote, there's a lot of harsh realities associated with being in space that you have to deal with. Radiation, being one of them, and there are multiple days away from Earth. Unlike in low Earth orbit, you have to bring systems in terms of redundancy and consumables with you, said Howard Hugh, Orion program manager. The third mission will land astronauts on the lunar surface, bringing NASA closer to its long-term goals of going past just Earth and the moon and heading out towards Mars, et cetera, et cetera. Hoberg says there's a lot of scientific discovery to do. We want to set up moon bases to do all the things. That's really fun that those things are being made here in Washington. Wonder if they're giving public tours. I'll have to check into that. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980, featuring USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union, with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we're giving away 4 tickets to the Washington State Fair. It's time to do the Puyallup at the Washington State Fair to celebrate its 125th anniversary with food, fun, and entertainment. Washington State Fair has it all. It'll also have KVI on Military Mondays. We will be there on Mondays during the fair. You can come see us. We'll put out an entire schedule of when Mike and I and Phil and Zach are going to be out at the fair, and you can get free stuff from us at the booth out there. Get your tickets now at thefair.com. That's thefair.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes, be calling number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Padrona Financial and CPAs, and 4 tickets to the Washington State Fair. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, my friends, that's going to do it for us today. But fear not, we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.